Most summer movies initially scheduled to open in the next couple of months, from James Bond to Black Widow, have been pushed back already. There was, however, one movie above all others that we received questions about and concerns over whether or not it too would be pushed back. That movie was Ghostbusters 2020, or Ghostbusters Afterlife, as it has since been titled, the continuation of the original Ghostbusters saga. Now we have the answer. The upcoming Ghostbusters will be pushed back by almost a year, from July of 2020 to March of 2021. In this video, I'll go through this and which other movies Sony now have pushed back, and why I think pushing Ghostbusters back this much is a good move that you should be supportive of. Finally, I'll address one Sony project that has not been pushed back, namely He-Man and the Masters of the Universe reboot, and what is up with that. In the late hours of Monday, March 30th, the announcement that many had been both expecting and dreading finally came. Sony will be pushing back their remaining summer tentpoles, first and foremost Ghostbusters Afterlife, by almost a full year, from July 10th of 2020 to March 5th of 2021. So to those of you who are thinking, oh yes, only a little bit more than 3 months to go till Ghostbusters, I can't hardly wait. Well, you'll be waiting almost another year. You won't be the only one though, as Sony announced they were also pushing back Jared Leto's post-Harley Quinn dumping him rebound movie Morbius from July 31st of 2020 to March 19th of 2021. And for those who might care, they also pushed back Peter Rabbit 2: The Runaway from August 7th of 2020 to January 15th of 2021. While they were at it, they also pushed back their troubled and ever-delayed Uncharted movie, inexplicably still starring Tom Holland, from March of next year to October of next year. I would not bet much on that date sticking either, but that's neither here nor there. They also took the opportunity to remove an untitled Sony Marvel movie from the release calendar altogether. Sony said they expected theaters to be closed until mid-summer, even in the best of scenarios, so this is obviously a response to that. Eventually, they do expect a return to a new normal though, so the as of yet untitled sequel to Venom, the one featuring Carnage, has so far not been affected. That remains scheduled for October 2nd of this year. Fingers crossed things will have returned to normal by then. If you were waiting in anticipation for any of these movies, most notably for Ghostbusters Afterlife, I understand that suddenly being made to wait almost another year is going to be frustrating. I do think it is for the better though. Ghostbusters Afterlife is actually an important movie, not because of the movie itself, but because of the close scrutiny it, or rather its performance, will be subject to. This scrutiny also has very little to do with the movie itself. Instead, it has everything to do with Paul Feig's Ghostbuster remake from 2016. That movie was an ideologically and politically driven remake, which is why so many in Hollywood and the surrounding spin machine rallied behind it. It got embroiled in the 2016 presidential election and became a symbol and a battleground in what I, as an outside observer, would not hesitate to label a cold civil war. Furthermore, Paul Feig's Ghostbusters was ground zero for what would later happen to the likes of Star Wars, Star Trek, and Doctor Who, among others. Yet for all the importance placed upon Paul Feig's Ghostbusters by the industry, despite all the praise it got from professional reviewers within the entertainment media, it failed with the actual movie-going audience, and it tanked at the box office, costing the studio a small fortune in the process.
You know, the director, he spent too much on it, and he didn't shoot scenes we suggested to him. Several scenes that were going to be needed, and he said, no, we don't need them. And then we tested the movie, and they needed them, and he had to go back, and about 30 to 40 million in reshoots, so yeah. Wow. So he will not be back on the Sony line anytime soon.
Lacking other franchises to fall back on, Sony decided to give the Ghostbusters brand another shot by going back to making the movie they should have made all along. A genuine sequel featuring the surviving original legacy cast. Just like Paramount and the filmmakers behind Sonic the Hedgehog did in response to the backlash of that first trailer. Sony listened to the fans and the audience. Does that mean the movie will be perfect? That it will be exactly the movie that the audience wants? That I cannot say. What I can say though, is that chances are it will be a heck of a lot closer to what fans want than what Paul Feig's remake ever was, or that any of the planned sequels to it were going to be. Make no mistake about it though, Sony took a chance here, a much bigger chance than Paramount and the powers behind Sonic the Hedgehog did when they listened to the audience and merely redesigned Sonic. While many were puzzled by their decision to do so, and some articles even opined that Hollywood should not be caving in to the demands of what they labeled toxic and entitled fans, redesigning Sonic didn't really step on anyone's toes. By contrast, this movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife, does step on toes. Those who were all in on Paul Feig's Ghostbusters, those who chose that as their hill to die on, so to speak, were extremely critical of Sony giving Ghostbusters Afterlife the green light. Case in point, Leslie Jones had a major blowout on Twitter, where she even claimed greenlighting it was something that Trump would do, which we covered before. Jones spoke on her own accord, but I have been told that she voiced with many others, writers, directors, producers, and journalists alike, genuinely felt. Sony ignored that and went with the audience, as that has a bigger chance of resulting in much needed cash on their bottom line, for all their other flaws and poor decisions. I would like to see them rewarded for this one. The industry will also be keeping very close tabs on how Ghostbusters Afterlife performs. Even Paul Feig has admitted that if it proves to be a hit, he will be forced to consider that his movie might have been the wrong one to make. What this all means is that if Ghostbusters Afterlife succeeds where Paul Feig's Ghostbusters failed, hot on the heels of Sonic the Hedgehog succeeding where Birds of Prey failed, which in turn came hot on the heels of both Charlie's Angels and Terminator Dark Fate failing, then that will send a powerful signal to Hollywood that may be laying off the preaching and instead giving the audience, who just so happens to be paying customers, the kind of product they want, might be a viable business model. For this message to resonate though, Ghostbusters Afterlife must perform well at the box office. In the current situation, there was no way the original July 10th release date would be helpful to that end. Meaning, pushing the movie back was the only viable option, however you choose to look at it. Summer season generally begins earlier and earlier for each passing year, so March of next year might not be that bad. So, for those eagerly anticipating it, the additional wait will of course be frustrating. In the bigger scheme of things though, this is probably for the better. I just hope the movie will be a crowd pleaser that fans will enjoy, and that it will perform well. The extra wait will of course be frustrating to fans, but at least fans of Ghostbusters have an end date in sight. The fans of another 80s property do not.
What's going on?
For a decade now, Sony have been trying and failing to make a reboot of He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Only the past year has there been any real forward motion under the helm of the Nee brothers. It even has cast a lead now in Noah Centineo as He-Man himself. A casting choice I am, if anything, even less enthused about than Robert Pattinson as Batman, but that's just me. Anyway, some of you might wonder, what about He-Man? Why was there no mention of Masters of the Universe in Sony's press release? There have been no formal announcements here, but the likely answer is that Sony won't be releasing it, period. The last we heard was that in an effort to reduce risk, Tom Rothman considered selling the entire project to Netflix. We never heard any more from official sources, at least not so far, but not too long after that rumor made the rounds, in the trades no less, Sony removed Masters of the Universe from their release schedule. They didn't push it back, they just quietly removed it. and that was long before any Wuhan flu hit. So chances are, Sony and Netflix made a hitherto unannounced agreement, and He-Man will be developed as a Netflix-exclusive Sony, Mattel, and Netflix co-production. If this is accurate, when can we expect to learn more, such as, a release date? I have no idea. So Ghostbusters fans, take solace in the fact that at the very least you know. And according to yet another 80s property, that is half the battle. Let me know your thoughts on these movies being pushed back, and how excited you are for Ghostbusters Afterlife in the comments.